It's finally there, the Mercedes W14B version. And Mercedes is the last team to adapt to the promising concept of large downwashing side pods. Why is that a good idea? Because, like we discussed in many videos since the 2022 regulations were introduced, the powerful bargeboard area to push the front-rear wake outside does not exist anymore. There can be a large outer strake, which works similar to a previous bargeboard, but it's far more simple and less powerful. So teams had to find another solution to push the front-rear wake outboard. Every team did this, sooner or later, by using wide side pods, which help to push the wake outboard and keep the downforce producing parts at the back in clean air. So if there is a wall, air cannot go there. Every team except Mercedes. They had the clever idea at the beginning of the 2022 season to turn their upper crash tube cover into a downwashing wing. Because of this downwash, they create higher pressure behind the front wheel, which pushes the front rear wake outboard. And because of this clever idea, they don't need large side pods and can instead have literally no bodywork towards the back, which gives them the best delivery of clean air to the back. That was the theory, but the problem was that this didn't work in reality and the dirty wake pulled inside. Mercedes was so convinced to make this work, because the numbers look good on screen, that it took them until now, so more than a season, to adapt to the simpler design of large side pods. The next thing is that if you have large side pods, you want to keep them wide, to keep the front rear wake outboard for as long as possible. At the same time, you want as much clean air at the back as possible, and you reach this by pulling clean air down towards the back. And that's something every team does. Ferrari and Haas additionally use an in-washing section at the lower side. And now Mercedes does that as well. So, unsurprisingly, they changed to large downwashing side pods, and they kept the downwashing crash tube cover to increase the pressure in front of the side pod to further push the wake outboard. The undercut area has a double push outboard, and to be honest, the side pod shape is very simple and reminds us of the first downwashing side pods teams were using last year. And this is pretty much where Mercedes starts now, where other teams started last year around this time. But simple is also good, because it gives you a good basis, which should be easier to understand. And the good thing about copying in F1 is that you save a lot of development time. So Mercedes will be able to learn and adapt quickly, although Monaco is not the best track to bring a huge update package, because the track is so unique. At the Mercedes side pod, we can also see a gentle dip to pull more energy down towards the rear. But you have to be careful with such a design and first gain experience, since the air has to be able to follow the shape in every situation. So then it's important that the mirror area doesn't disturb the flow, and the horizontal element helps to precondition the flow for the side pod ramp. Interesting to see is their vortex generator, which creates an outwashing vortex to further keep the front rear wake outside. What's really nice about the W14 design is that cockpit losses stay in the upper drain and cannot leak out down towards the important parts. That's also a good place to release some heat, as this flow will exit the car between beam and rear wing, so it doesn't hit anything important. Mercedes kept this center design for the B version, and with the new side pod ramp, that creates a large vertical wall. Mercedes can now use the full advantage of the large side pod design, because large side pods are lighter than small ones. Why? Because the bodywork skin is just 1 to 2 mm carbon fiber and doesn't weigh much. But if you have large side pods, you can hide huge brackets underneath to reinforce the floor and stiffen it up. Something we can see at the Mercedes now. So brackets and support cables are now covered by the side pod, so there are no aerodynamic penalties anymore. And to have a proper bracket at one location is lighter than stiffening up the whole flat floor. Also, we see an interesting slot in the coke area, which is most likely the tire temperature sensor. But the bodywork isn't everything. Mercedes also brought a new floor, which we cannot really see yet, but we see the large outlets of their floor strake area, which again helps them to keep the lower front rear wake outboard. But since we are in Monaco, there are good chances we see some cars from underneath when they are lifted by cranes. So let's see what we can spot during the weekend. And Also, the front suspension is new, which is quite a tricky update to do during a season. They angled the upper wishbone to create more anti-dive, which keeps the aero platform more stable and predictable for the driver, something we know from Red Bull and Aston Martin. So, front axle, floor and bodywork are huge changes, and Mercedes basically starts from scratch now. So it could take a few races until results are coming. But each one of these changes points to a promising direction, and Mercedes is a very capable team. So what do you think? Will Mercedes be able to fight for wins again with these updates? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want to know how to design F1 bodyworks like this one, check out my online course with the link below.